Hey everyone, Brett McKay here from theartofmanliness.com. Well, next week is Thanksgiving, and at most Thanksgiving dinners in America, the turkey is the centerpiece of dinner. So we thought it'd be a great idea to dedicate an entire week on how to prepare, cook, and carve a turkey so you can really impress your guests this year. And to do that, we talked to my friend Karl Engel. You might remember Karl from our grilling series. Karl's the head chef at Picasso Barbecue here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Karl's gonna show us how to prepare a turkey with a brine. He's gonna show us how to cook it in various ways. For example, this turkey was smoked. And then to end the week, Karl's gonna show us how to carve a turkey to make something really presentable for your guest. So I think you're really gonna enjoy these videos. Stay tuned this week. In today's video, Karl is going to show us how to infuse your turkey with flavor with a dry brine.
Okay, when it comes to a turkey, one thing that we always do is we brine our turkeys. Now, traditionally, brining has been in a liquid solution and usually overnight. You'll put it in there with some spices, whether it's vinegar or cloves, whatever. There are a lot of good recipes that you can use that you can find on the internet or in cookbooks for a wet brine. But what we like to do, because sometimes a wet brine can be messy, you're left with all that liquid, you're always got to add ice to it if it's not cold enough, there's no room in your refrigerator for a big bucket. So we try and have experimented and had great success with a dry brine. Now what a dry brine is basically we use salt, herbs, and some pepper. And the recipe will be on the website so you can check that out. But what we'll want to do is clean the turkey, dry it really good. We're going to apply this wet brine or dry brine to it. Then we're going to put it in the refrigerator uncovered overnight. And it'll give it a great, fantastic flavor. It'll be just as juicy, if not more juicy, than with a wet brine. Okay, so we're ready to apply the brine. And you can see we've got it pre-mixed up. It's basically a cup of salt, a tablespoon of dry herbs, and a tablespoon of pepper. And what we're going to do now is we've got our bird, and you could put it in a pan, a foil pan, or I use this stainless steel bowl, but we're liberally going to cover all of this bird inside and out with this brine. Tips, bottom, flip it over. And what this is going to do, the salt, just as in a liquid brine, that salt is going to permeate that bird and make it a much more juicier bird. It's going to give it more flavor, chance to get spices and herbs in it. Some of the people will swear by a wet brine, and that's fine, but I suggest you try this. It's a lot less messy. There's no liquid to dispose of when you're done. And again, don't worry about using too much. You're going to rinse it off. The bird is not going to be this big salt block like you think it is, but it is going to give it a great flavor. And don't forget the cavity. And again, this amount is meant for one bird. A lot of people always tell me that's just an enormous amount of salt. And it is, but that's what a brine is. You would use this much salt in a liquid brine. There you go, it's ready to go. We don't need to do anything now, but put it in the refrigerator. So our turkey has been in the refrigerator. It's been brining in our dry brine for a little over 12 hours, which is fine. You can go up to 18 if you'd like. Wouldn't go less than 8, but now we're ready to rinse it, dry it, season it, and put it in the oven to cook for Thanksgiving. We want to rinse off all of that salty brine, inside and out. It has had a chance to permeate the bird, get inside the meat, get under the skin. So we just want to rinse it off and get it good and clean so we'll be ready. I think it's also important to remember that when you do season it, you don't want to add too much more salt. There's already a lot of salt in that bird, so you don't need to add any additional salt. What you want to add now are things for color or a little bit of extra flavor, like now would be the time to inject with any kind of marinator, with whatever you want. Just make sure that it's not that salty. So the next step is really to apply some seasoning to your bird. We've rinsed the brine off. Take some paper towels, blot it dry really well. You don't want a lot of water on it. So you can even blot it inside and out. You want to do a couple things. First off, put some things in the cavity. And at this point, you can do whatever you like. I'm just gonna put some oranges and some apples. You can put onions in there. You can put a stick of herbs. You can do whatever you wanna do. You're not gonna eat them, but it is gonna add some flavor to the bird as it cooks. Also, on the bottom, you could put it in a roasting rack if you'd like. I just like to put it straight in this pan. And I put some onions on the bottom to lift it off the pan to keep it from getting too soggy. And the other thing I will do is I will tuck the wings right underneath, so it gives it a good presentation when you're gonna cut. The other thing I do is I take an entire stick of butter and I will put it inside that cavity. You could put it under the skin if you want. You could wipe some on the skin like this. This is just gonna add more flavor to what you're gonna do as the bird cooks. Then we're gonna do a little bit of seasoning. And what I'm doing is, again, remember that it's already brined with salt, so it doesn't need much salt. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of this barbecue rub, which doesn't have an enormous amount of salt in it, but it does have some things like paprika, a little bit of pepper, some garlic. And this is gonna help enhance not only the flavor of the skin, but also give it a really, really good color as it goes in the oven. And we're gonna put this in a 350-degree oven for about 13 minutes a pound. And if you want to help seal it in, I just use some butter-flavored spray oil. You can spray that on it, help seal that in. Again, that's just gonna help to crisp up that skin and give it a good color. Another thing that you may have noticed is we did not stuff this bird. So we want to talk a little bit about that. There's always people on both sides of this, and I know we're going to get loaded with comments saying, oh, stuffing is not evil or stuffing is evil. We, as a general rule, do not stuff the bird. It's so difficult with the cross-contamination of poultry to get that bird done and get the stuffing up to enough temperature to where you don't dry out the bird or you don't undercook the stuffing. So what we like to do is cook our stuffing separately, and there's a lot of recipes for that, especially on the Art of Manliness, and use aromatics inside the cavity of the bird and cook the bird on its own and allow that stuffing to stand for itself.
Well, thanks, Karl, for showing us how to brine a turkey. If you'd like the recipe to that dry brine that Karl used, just click on the link below and you'll be taken to a PDF with the recipe that you can print off to use this Thanksgiving.